Damn dogs, I muttered. Ileana started laughing. The dog bites were not a problem. The painted African dogs are one of the zoo's big attractions. They have better medical care than you or me. Every one of those pups was up to date on their shots and healthier than both of us. It was the toddler bites that caused the infection. Didn't you ever take any first aid courses as a Boy Scout? Human bites are almost always more dangerous than dog bites. I rolled my eyes. My parents wouldn't let us join scouting when I was a kid. They thought it was too paramilitary. I tried to sit up more, but a host of tubes were in both my arms. I can't blame the little tyke. I was scared shitless. He must have been terrified. Besides, no good deed goes unpunished. Speaking of no good deed, anyone get a hold of Amy? Tell her what happened, where I am. Ileana made a face. I gave the hospital staff her contact info. They have been unable to get a hold of her yet, but left lots of messages. Your phone got smashed when you landed in your little paratrooper imitation, so I don't know if she has called you. But let's talk about better things. With that, Ileana turned around her laptop screen to face me. It was a news website that had a picture of me on all fours, face to face with a snarling, painted African dog. It must have been when I first landed in the pit. The caption read, "Kitty Pit Bull Fight at Zoo." I waved my hand. And this is what is putting newspapers out of business? Ileana logged onto another website. This one had me with the boy in my arms being chased by the pack. Accompanying caption, "Dog gone. Man flees to save child," it read. "Please stop, Ileana. Stop." I groaned. She kept typing. "Just one more. This is my favorite." This news site had me holding the frightened child in one arm, shirt ripped with blood running down my chest and a cut on my face. I was holding some of the dogs at bay with Ileana's fake leg thrust out like a fencing foil. Below in bold letters, it exclaimed, "Man defeats canines in dog fight." "Please no more," I begged, as Ileana continued pecking on her laptop. I was rescued by a knock at the door. A well-dressed guy about my age, with an older distinguished gentleman, walked into the room. If I had to guess, they were the little boy's father and grandfather. Dad rushed over to my bed. "Sir," he started. "Please call me Bill." I interrupted. The young dad looked back at Grandpa before continuing. "Okay, Bill, I don't know what to say. What you did for my boy is beyond words. You ever, and I mean ever, need anything, and I do mean anything, from a kidney to a ride to the airport, we are your first, last, and only call. You always have a place at our dinner table." He tried to shake my hands, but the maze of tubes made it difficult. Grandpa stepped forward and squeezed my shoulder. Addressing his son, he said, "We are forever in this man's debt for what he did for my grandson. I think Bill's actions deserve more than a free meal at Christmas and some savings on cab fare." Turning toward me, "Son, I mean Bill, what do you do?" I gave them the short version of my school and work, the plans, etc., leaving out Amy and I's difficulties. Grandpa listened intently. When I was finished, he rubbed his chin for a second. "I know of your bakery, Bill. It is a fine organization, and they will be fortunate to have a man like you in management." He pulled out a business card from a suit coat pocket and laid it on the dresser next to me. "However, Bill, if you ever change your mind, please give me a call." He tapped the business card lying on the dresser. "There is always room in the firm for a few good men who know how to think and act. My door is always open to you." With that, Grandpa spread his hands wide. "We will leave you now to get some rest. I apologize for the absence of my wife and daughter. My wife refuses to leave my grandson, our only grandchild's bedside. My daughter is also resting. She blames herself for what happened, and the doctors had to give her something to help her rest. I hope you will accept an invitation that allows us to express our thanks in a more comfortable setting in the near future. I look forward to it," I said. With that, they left the room. Ileana shook her head. "Okay, Bill, I am gonna bail. The hospital lent me some crutches, but I forgot how much energy these things take out of you. I will see you tomorrow. Oh, and FYI, you owe me a pair of shoes." "You mean one shoe?" I said as Ileana gave me the finger. I lay back in my bed and smiled. The pain meds did their work and Ileana tromped out of the room. Monday morning was uneventful. I wanted to leave and felt fine. Of course, the morphine drip may have accounted for a good portion of my well-being. Somewhere in my haze, I was worried where Amy was. My boss, the owner, had called earlier. He had seen news coverage and video off of someone's cell phone. He told me he was proud of me and take all the time I need. Ileana tromped in on her crutches at about 10 a.m. after the first class. As she sat down, I asked her, "Ileana, can you do me a favor and go see if you can find Amy?" "Oh God," Ileana groaned. "It isn't enough I give you the shoes off my feet and my damn leg. Now you want me to fetch your women for you too." Speak of the devil, and she does appear. Just then Amy blew into the room, still in her bakery work clothes. She launched herself at me on the bed, grabbing me in a bear hug. "Oh my God, Bill, I am so sorry. How are you?" She pulled back to inspect me, then hugged me again. "This is so terrible. I just found out from our boss about what happened." "Oh my God." I was horrified to find out that way. I came right from work, didn't even change. I gave Amy a strange look. "Didn't you get any of the calls or messages from the hospital?" Amy stood up straight. Her face got flushed with anger. "No, the damn fools at the hospital had the wrong last digit on both our home and cell phone numbers." "That is odd," I thought as Amy rattled on about how she and her mom had baked a couple of the favorite pies I liked. Her coming home late Sunday from her mom's, thinking I was at work, and this morning believing I had gone straight to class again. "My God, Bill," Amy said. "I called your cell like 100 times and left you dozens of texts." I looked over at Ileana. She suddenly looked up at the ceiling. Now I knew who had given the wrong phone number to the hospital staff. Amy looked over at Ileana. She gave Ileana one of those fake smiles that females give each other when they wish the other would die from an STD. "Ileana, thank you so much for coming to visit with Bill. No need to stay anymore. I am sure you have lots of places to be." Ileana just waved her hand. "Class is out now, so no problem. I can hang out with Bill for a while." Ileana and Amy locked eyes. Then a knock at the door broke the stare down. An older man in a rumpled suit walked into the room. He had law enforcement written all over him. After introducing himself as a Metro detective while doing the ID badge flip, he started talking. "So sorry to interrupt your recovery. I must tell you it was a real John Wayne Rambo move you pulled with the kid at the zoo." The detective paused for a moment and then pointed at Ileana. "But having both of you here saves me a trip. I am looking into a robbery shooting that happened behind the university library on Friday." The detective pulled out a notebook and pen from his suit coat pocket. "We caught a view of a pistol in his shoulder holster. The ID check-in system at the university has you both at the library around the time of the incident. Unfortunately, the system does not log when students depart the library. Can you tell me about what time you two left the library? Do you recall seeing anything out of the ordinary? Hear anything?" My mind was racing, but the painkillers made thinking hazy. Ileana jumped right in. "We were at the library about an hour, I think. Then Bill and I went to his house. We were kicking around thoughts about an English term paper due soon." The detective was nodding his head and jotting down the information in his small notebook. I glanced up at Amy. Her face was getting red. I saw her jawline clench tight. The detective spoke to me without looking up. "You got anything to add?" I nodded my head before realizing the detective was not looking at me. I finally found my voice. Yeah, that sounds about right." The detective flipped his notebook closed before putting it and the pen away in his pocket. "Well, thanks for your help. The university is a very low crime area, so I would not be too concerned about this isolated event. In truth, I do not see the department spending a lot of effort on this small-time robbery. But the university provost and chief are old buddies, so we must cross all our T's and fill in the blanks. You understand." I nodded my head again. The detective looked around at Amy, Ileana, and I once more, raising his hand holding a business card before depositing it on the dresser. "If anything else pops to mind, please give me a call." Turning to leave, he continued, "Appreciate your time. I hope you feel better." Amy followed the detective to the doorway, staring at him as he walked down the hall. After a minute, Amy stomped over to the seated Ileana. Reaching into Ileana's flaming red hair, Amy yanked out a strand. "Ouch!" Ileana yelped, rubbing her scalp. "What the hell did you do that for?" Amy marched over to my bed and held the strand of red hair in my face. "You pig," Amy said in a low voice. Sunday night, I was taking a shower in our bedroom bathroom when I saw all these red hairs in the drain. She shook the red strand of hair at me. How could you? I work my bum off every day and sit home every night alone while you play schoolboy, and then you go screw this skinny bitch in my home, in my bed. Amy. I started to speak. Amy threw the hair strand at me and then spit in my face before slapping me. Amy spun, turning on Ileana, raising her hand over her head to deliver a strike to Ileana's face. Ileana lifted the crutch she was holding and batted away Amy's blow. Quickly reversing her grip on the crutch, Ileana jammed the point of the crutch into Amy's solar plexus. Amy doubled over, expelling a large off and grabbing her midsection. Ileana moved the crutch downward, catching Amy's ankle before sweeping upward, knocking Amy off her feet and onto the floor. Amy had no sooner hit the floor when in a flash Ileana was straddling her, the crutch across Amy's throat. "You want to do battle, chicken butt?" Ileana hissed at Amy. "I grew up with 5 brothers, so I don't do no fat chick, cat fight." Amy was struggling. "I am not fat." Ileana rose off of Amy, pointing her crutch at Amy like a sword. "You ain't fat, bitch. Maybe compared to a 500-pound prize pig, but whatever, wide ride. Just keep your pudgy pie-eating paws off me." I stared at the 2 women in amazement. My mind was frozen. It was like watching a car wreck. Amy sat up, rubbing her abdomen. She looked up at me. "We are done, Bill." She looked at Ileana. "Watch it." Ileana taunted. "Don't be comparing me to your big, fat lard bum." Amy's face became beet red. "You can have this anorexic 304 and screw her in the house all you want from now on." She got up and dusted off her backside. "But you are gonna pay, you cheating pig." I hope this undernourished 304 was worth it. Amy grabbed at her wedding ring, making an effort to try and to pull it off. "What's the matter, extra large?" Ileana mocked. "Need some 10W40 to get the costume jewelry off that fat finger? Check your pockets for grease from the bacon snacks. That oughta help." Amy stormed out of the room. I was still in shock at the encounter. Ileana dropped back into the chair before speaking. "Well, Bill, I thought that went well." I finally found my voice. "Ileana, what did you do that for? Why didn't you tell her nothing happened between us? Or give me a chance to explain?" Ileana shrugged. "You were going to pull the trigger and drop the little cheater anyway, right?" I nodded my head. "So, Bill, this just gets the garbage out of the house sooner than later." "Okay, Ileana, but what was all that nonsense about Amy being fat? She is not in shape like you, but Amy certainly is not overweight." Ileana gave me a grin. "Oh hell, that was just a little trash talk between us girls. Besides, that cheater needs to walk away with a little pain. You gonna tell her you know about her play dates?" "Nope," I said, shaking my head. "Amy's probably been laughing at me, thinking she got a secret over my dumb mind. Her not knowing, I know, is a secret I get to laugh at her with. So it's all over but the shouting Bill." I sighed sadly. "And the lawyers?" Pausing for a moment, I glanced over at Ileana. "Still, I wish this little dust-up could have been avoided. I am already sick of hospital food, and Amy's mom makes the best pie." Things went downhill quick. Amy had me serve divorce papers 2 days later. In the hospital, no less, which I thought was kind of tacky. I was released from the hospital at the end of the week. I returned home to find all of Amy's possessions gone. I also found the electric and water shut off. Not to mention, Amy had canceled the cable, internet, our credit cards, plus my cell phone. The bank accounts had not been drained, but not much was left. Amy had paid off our balance and taken half of what was remaining, which was barely enough to keep the account active. Worse was convincing the landlord I could swing the house rental on my own. Amy and I had been there forever on a month-by-month basis. In truth, I should have moved to a smaller, cheaper place. However, any new place would have wanted first month's rent, last month's rent, and a month's security deposit, none of which I had funds for. Also, with all my tools and a decade worth of furniture and stuff, I had neither the time, energy, nor resources for a move. Getting all the utilities turned back on in my name, new credit cards, cell phone plan, etc., besides being a hassle, and draining any cash I had left, also took a big chunk of my time. In between classes, schoolwork, night shift, and everyday living, I was getting burnt out fast. I know in my heart I could not stay with Amy any longer, but I still missed having her around. We had been together a large portion of my life. Not only did I miss her and having someone home when I came in the door, but I also missed the day-to-day practical things Amy did, such as shopping, dishes, laundry, bill paying. To compensate, I became like a typical college student, eating off paper plates so I would not have dishes to wash. Twice, I just bought a six-pack of underwear and socks, as it was easier than doing laundry. The loss of Amy's income also took some getting used to. I picked up Sunday shifts at the bakery, which helped get me some funds, but it cut into both my sleep and study time. Amy must not have been so nostalgic. One look at her divorce demands, and I knew I needed a lawyer. Ileana's had a friend from her group that was in family law, as well a former JAG, and agreed to not only take my case, but allow me to make payments for her service. Bill, that is one pissed-off lady. The former JAG officer said was we sat in her office. I have just come from a meeting with your wife's lawyer. Amy is asking alimony for 3 years, payback of her school tuition, books and fees for the semester she went to school, plus half of all the payments made so far to the university for your tuition. Now here's the big one. Amy demands a portion of any increase in your future earnings. Damn, I exclaimed. Does Amy want both testicles also? Or can I keep one of my family jewels? She is the one that quit her job at the bakery, didn't even give notice. How is any of that my fault? Jag leaned back in her chair. This is a no-fault state, Bill, but we still tend to favor the fairer sex in most cases. Amy's request is not that unusual. Think of a spouse that sustains their mate all through medical school, paying the bills and being a support system. After all is over, doctor, heart, brain surgeon, is in great demand at a high salary. Can the mate just cast aside, without consequence, the person that was part of the corroboration that allowed the potential to happen? Does not the spouse that was sustenance during the lean, hard times not deserve to share in the bounty? I threw up my hands. When we were together, everything and anything I had Amy was welcome to, and she knew it. If she is the one that wants to leave, why can we just split our crap down the middle and go our separate ways? Bill, are you saying you would be open to marriage counseling? A chance to get back together with Amy again? I shot up in my chair. Helen, no. Jag had a bit of a laugh. I thought not. I ran it by your wife's attorney anyway, just to see what would happen. He said he had his orders from Amy and was not to deviate from them. He let slip something about Amy having gone away. I do not think he is even in contact with her. What Amy is hiding out somewhere? Like running from the mob? Does not matter. I can slam down most of the requests pretty easy. No kids, limited assets, should be quick if we need a court judge to decide the issues. Amy claims to be big-time religion. I said, tell her it would be the Christian thing to do, giving away her man to the less fortunate that have none. The lawyers met a few more times, not accomplishing anything as far as I could tell, but running up my legal tab. Hence, the reason 3 months later I was sitting in the courthouse, outside a room that held family matters. I did not how much longer I could go on burning the candle at both ends. Every time I thought I saw light at the end of the tunnel, it turned out to be an incoming train. The transmission on my car died. Without time or funds to repair it, I had been taking the bus. The bus schedule required I leave earlier and stay later, for both work and school. Ileana gave me rides as much as possible, but she lived on the other side of town. The parents and grandparents from the boy at the zoo had been calling me weekly to inquire about my health and wanting to get together. But there always seemed to be a term paper or project due. I guess I could have asked them for some help, but I did not think it was right. I thought about it several times, especially when the bills came due. However, I always backed down, as it felt like coercion or greenmail. Bill. The voice of Jag, my attorney calling, brought me out of my thoughts. Bill, I have good news and bad news, Jag started. The good news is we are first up on the docket. She paused, and I waited for the bad news. Bill, we have not drawn the very best choices in judges for your case. How, not very best choice, are talking about? I asked. It must be hard for someone in her profession to tell the whole truth. Well, Bill, I just want you to prepare yourself. Our judge is very liberal when it comes to women's rights and what they deserve out of a relationship. She is known as Judge Feminazi. If militant feminists had an army, she would be their field marshal. Now I am all about equal pay and equal rights, but this judge is way over the line. She has been cited and warned a dozen times over some of her rulings and asset division. Unfortunately, never in your gender's favor. I got up from my bench seat in the chair. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Then I sighed, rubbing a hand through my hair. Whatever happened to karma? You know that do good things and good things happen? Ever since I jumped into that dog pound, my life has turned to shit. Some days I wish I would have just let those mutts finish chewing on me. She squeezed my shoulder. Buck up, cowboy. It will soon be over. I gestured toward the door. So shall we go in to beard the lion in her den? Jag put her arm out to stop me. Bill, it might be best if you just wait here. I do not want you to say or do anything that will give this judge any reason to make things difficult. I am housebroken, you know? Jag gave a tight smile. As your legal representative, I am advising you, it would be best if you let me do this alone. Okay, I get it. You want a limited amount of testosterone in the room, I said. Jag just pushed me back onto the hallway seat. Stay put. I should done in about 30 minutes, an hour tops. With that, she walked into the courtroom. I had brought some study material with me, but could not concentrate. After 20 minutes, I was getting restless. By 45 minutes, I was bored, so I called Ileana on my cell. How goes the battle? Ileana asked after I told her where I was. You doing okay? I feel like a death row inmate awaiting the hangman's noose. What about Amy? Did you see her? I looked around quickly. Nope, my soon-to-be ex-wife is nowhere to be found. My lawyer hints Amy is in witness protection, possibility relocated. Really? Ileana said in surprise. Sure, I bet Amy and Elvis are hanging out right now eating fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I switched the phone to my other ear. Have you always been this gullible? Oh, screw off, Bill. Ileana laughed back at me. It is just that Amy has not been on her cheater website since she stormed out of the hospital that day. Ileana, why are you still checking out Amy on the cheating website? I looked at my watch. We really gotta get you a life. Besides, I bet Amy already has a permanent hookup with one of her online bed buddies. Honestly, I could care less, more power to him. Just then Jag came out of the courtroom, so I bid Ileana goodbye. As Jag walked toward me, I saw her skip. I do not know that many attorneys, but this is the first one I ever saw one skipping like a small child. Bill, you better go out and buy a lottery ticket, because this is your lucky day. Jag gave me a hug. I thought I was in the wrong courtroom. The judge I told you about, the ultra-uber-femme Nazi? It was like someone else was in her body. Not only did she throw out all of your wife, Amy's demands, but your wife has to pay you for any fees associated with getting utilities turned on, deposits, or any related costs. My eyes opened wide in shock. You're not kidding, are you? Jag gave me a great big smile. No, I am not. Oh, it gets better. Better for you anyway. Amy has to pay all and any attorney fees of both parties, including court costs. And here's the kicker. Wait for it. Wait for it. Amy has to pay you alimony in the amount of half your rent plus half of utilities for a period of 18 months, a year and a half. I was stunned and had to sit down. Jag was babbling on about how the courtroom became dead silent as shocked other lawyers and even the bailiff were spellbound. Because this well-known, feminist, judge was lecturing Amy's attorneys about Amy taking advantage of the man trying to improve their lot in life, making all women look like money-grubbing thieves, using the court to gain something she had no right to. The really funny thing is they may need to go review the court audio recordings for the official record. The judge's longtime stenographer was so astounded, she forgot to type down what the judge was saying. Just then the bailiff stuck his head out the door and crooked a finger at me. Sir, the judge would like to see you in her chambers. Jag started to walk forward, but the bailiff held up his hand. Just you alone, sir. Please, without your lawyer. Jag spun me around by my shoulders. Bill, I do not know what is going on, but this is highly irregular. She looked over my head at the impatient bailiff. Jag still had a hold of my shoulders. Listen carefully, speak as little as possible. Nod or shake your head if you can. Keep all answers to yes, your honor, and no, your honor. You got it? I nodded my head. The bailiff cleared his throat. Sir, please, let's hurry. Her Honor does not like to be kept waiting. I was shown into an elegant wood-paneled back office. The judge, an older matronly-looking lady, had her back to me. She was signing some papers held to her by a court clerk. I looked around and saw the intimidating black robe hung by the wall. A wall filled with diplomas, awards, and plaques. The judge dismissed her clerk, finally turning to face me. I almost fell over. The last occasion I had seen this older woman's face had been from over 10 feet away. She'd been standing at the railing edge of the zoo bridge, looking down at me in horror, as wild African painted dogs were trying to tear me apart. At the time, as I fought for my life, being held high and tight in my arms, trying to keep safe from these vicious animals' fangs, wrapped safe from harm in my bloody grip, had been her only grandchild. It took a moment before nerve pulses reached my brain again. The judge approached, embracing me in a hug. She held on for a minute, then stepped back. "It is so good to finally meet you, Bill. May I call you Bill?" Still stunned, I remembered what the JAG had said, so I nodded my head. The judge led me to a small seating area that contained a sofa with a short table. After I sat, the judge poured me coffee, giving me a cup, before taking one herself. "I hope I did not startle you too much, Bill." I shook my head mutely. "As you can see, I kept my maiden name after my marriage. You know, I never did get the chance to thank you properly for what you did for my grandson." She opened a thick paper file on her lap. "I see you have no children. Do you want to have children, Bill?" "Sure. I mean, yes, Your Honor." "No need to be so formal, Bill. I was a parent to 4 children, but this is my only grandchild. Now let me tell you something about grandparents. It's different than being a parent. You think mother grizzly bears protect their cubs? Grizzlies are wusses compared to the protection grandparents feel about their grandkids." She closed the file. "We grandparents are old, stubborn, have resources, and don't give a good goddamn what anyone thinks. You cannot embarrass us, intimidate us, or shut us up. We just don't care about anything else when it comes to the welfare of our grandkids. We will spend whatever and do all. I love my children, but for my little grandson, I would walk through hell's fire in a bra and panties filled with gasoline, to fight the devil himself." I just nodded as the judge took a sip of her coffee. "Bill, what you did to save my only grandson, that was without a doubt the single, most monumental, unbelievable, major league, spectacular act of bravery I have ever seen. You do know that, right?" I nodded again. Someone said something similar to me in the hospital, right after it happened, Your Honor." The judge just smiled. "There is nothing I can ever do to repay your actions. I do not know what you were thinking when you jumped into that pit, but I am glad you did." She tapped my file on her lap. "Any gratitude I can show you cannot come close to being worthy of that day." I was speechless as I stared at my file in her lap. Finally, the judge tossed my file on her desk as she stood. "I hope you will find time to accept an invitation from our family. But please, you do not need to wait for an invite. You are always welcome in my home anytime. I can tell you everyone is looking so forward to meeting you." She took her hand in mine. "Speaking of meeting, I know a large group of single professional young ladies who would love to meet a man that acts on his thoughts." Ileana and a group of the vets were gathered in my home that evening to celebrate my independence and newly found non-marriage status. I told Jag she could get rid of the stuff the judge was demanding from Amy. I just wanted us to each pick up our toys and go to our separate homes, wherever Amy's new home may be. I enjoyed hanging with these people. Even though I had several years on all the vets, they all seemed much more worldly than I, due to their time in the service. After the zoo event, the vets had given me the nickname Bone, as in the dog bone that a dog chews on. Despite our differences, I can tell you one thing, they sure as hell drank more than I ever could. It was late, but Ileana and Deadeye Jane, the pixie blonde, were still doing shots. I was astounded at the amount of liquor Ileana could hold without any effects. I knew her left leg was hollow. I wonder if her right leg was hollow also. The booze had to go somewhere. "Hey, Ileana!" shouted a crew-cut guy with a marine shirt who was playing a video game someone had brought over with only one hand. "How much booze you gotta drink before you and me hit the rack for some sack time? I'll turn you into a real woman." Ileana threw a sucked-out lemon at him. "I'm not sure. It would be about as many drinks before you let Bone bury his bone up your bum." "Hey, keep me out of this. I said, while walking around grabbing car keys. I was off that evening from work, and there was no class tomorrow. Everyone could crash here or call a cab. No one was going to get in an accident on my watch. Damn right, I'm gonna keep you out of my bum, he replied, good-naturedly returning his attention to the video game. I stifled a yawn. I was having fun but feeling weary. A lot had happened today. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, and they certainly did not need me to babysit. So I stumbled to my room, falling into bed. I think I was out before my head hit the pillow. I awoke to a pair of lips on my mouth. It was dark, so it took me a moment to remember where I was. Reaching out toward the bedside lamp, soft hands intercepted my motion, guiding my hands to her jugs. It had been 3 months since I last had anything touching my prick but my own hands. As I felt her sliding down, I grabbed onto her shoulders. Do you think? I started to say. Shoo, she interrupted. No talk, just action. I lay back, this time letting the little head do the thinking. The ringing of the phone woke me up. As I reached over to gather up my cell, I heard the sound of water running in the shower. I felt the most relaxed and refreshed since, I do not know how long. Hello, I muttered into the mouthpiece. Bill, you magnificent pig. A booming baritone came through the earpiece so loud, I had to hold the phone away from my head. The voice on the other end was my boss, the bakery owner. Is everything okay? I asked. I'm off today, but I can come in if you need me. Okay. My boss roared into the phone. Things are great, and it is all because of you. All right, but I am a bit confused, sir. Bill, I hold in my hands a tentative contract to supply our baked goods to ACME Limited. We have been trying to break into their supply chain forever. ACME Limited. That name sounded familiar. New business is always good, sir. Who is ACME Limited again? God damn it, Bill. Oh, we gotta get your head out of the books and into the real world. AMC Limited is the largest supplier of food establishments in the eastern United States and Canada. I am talking about restaurants, hotels, amusement parks, military bases, cafeterias, fast food joints. Held a contract to supply bread rolls to the cruise ships that come to port will alone almost double our business. That is great news, sir, but I still don't know how I figure into this. Bill, great news is when your dentist tells you that you have no cavities. This is spectacular news. Hell, we can finally expand the plant. I can buy out them prick venture capitalists, get my company back. Going to need a whole bunch of new shifts and damn well expanded management team. Wow, that is outstanding, but I am still hazy on what I had to do with it. Well, Bill, we are still working out the details of the contract. However, there are 3 main demands. Number 1, that we meet or exceed the current quality standards. Number 2, that we are cost competitive. Now number 3 is the biggie and was non-negotiable. You, Bill, are required to become the prime point person in all of the bakeries dealing with AMC Limited. This item, we were told in the strongest possible terms, is a deal breaker. I rooted around for my wallet as he kept talking. What the hell did you do, Bill? Save the owner's firstborn child from the Mongolian hordes. I pulled out the plain white business card I had been given in the hospital that day by the zoo boy's grandfather. Written in simple gold lettering below the name was AMC Ltd. Under that was the title, Founder, CEO, and Board Chairman. I stared at the business card like it was the Holy Grail. Bill, are you still there, Bill? My boss's voice brought me out of my stupor. Sorry, sir. I drifted off for a second. You know the combo of school and work? Forget about that from now on, his interrupting voice bellowed in my ear. Effective immediately, you are off the night shift and a full-time student. But I cannot really afford to just go to school right now, sir. My car tranny is shot. Afford hell. He interrupted again. Money is now the least of your problems. You are at junior VP rank effective today and full VP when you graduate. Can't have a massive company like ACME Limited dealing with some peon. The job also comes with a company car. Pick out something an executive can be seen in. Not one of those puke-colored Jap jelly bean-shaped pieces of plastic either. You also have an expense account. As far as I am concerned, anything having to do with school, which is now everything, is a company expense. Now I was wide awake, even pinching myself hard to make sure. Thank you so much, sir. I do not know what to say. Don't say shit, Bill. He laughed. Study hard. Buy an apple for the teacher. Or a whole goddamn apple orchard if that's what it takes to pass. Just put it on the company credit card. Come in when you get a chance so we can get the paperwork taken care of. With that, he hung up, leaving me staring at the phone hoping it would not turn into smoke, signaling this was a dream. Speaking of dreams, the shower water stopped and my dream girl stepped out of the shower wrapped only in a towel. Leaning against the doorframe, she said, Bill, we have pretty much the same class schedule. I hate living across town. My lease is up next semester. I know you are living alone now. Think you can rent me a room? Damn if this was a dream. I hoped never to wake up. I don't think I can rent you a room, I replied. Seeing her face fall, I pulled back the covers on the bed. But for the same price, you can stay here if you want. It has been 5 years since AMC Limited took on as one of their suppliers. At first, we were running flat out 3 full shifts, barely able to fill our orders. With the plant expansion, we had the capacity, but getting everything running smoothly was quite a challenge. Sometimes I longed for the days when I just had to worry about my single crew on the loading dock, or my biggest concern was some grad school paper. For example, finding the right people to do a quality job all the time was difficult. No one seemed to want to take pride in their work anymore, be part of a team, or do what needed to be done. When the solution came to me, I almost kicked myself for not seeing it sooner. We started hiring military vets. These seemed to be the only people to take orders and follow a job to completion, whatever it took. They were not shy about pointing out errors and ways to increase productivity. The vets coming from school into management had the combination of book smarts plus real-world experience to put it into practice. I once saw the owner stand by meekly while one vet, a former Army drill instructor, chewed him out for not wearing sanitary booties and headgear in what the former DI considered his assembly line. I am now an MBA, but I still try to walk the floor and talk to the workers. It helps keep my head out of my bum. I also make it a point to visit some of the retail stores we supply. I don't mind picking up a loaf of bread off the shopping list. It allows me to do quality control at home on our products. Today I was at a mid-sized grocery store buying some muffins. I accidentally bumped into a cart next to a kneeling stock clerk filling the lower shelves. Excuse me, I said. The clerk looked up and our eyes locked. It was Amy. She looked thin. I mean emaciated thin. Her skin was pale white, stretched over her body like tissue paper. I could see her collar and neck bones standing out prominently. Amy reminded me of the withered zombies you see in horror movies. After a few tense seconds, I forced a smile to my face. Hello, Amy. You are looking slender. Amy continued kneeling for a moment. Fire then came into her eyes as she stood up. Sticking a bony finger in my face, she hissed, You son of a bitch. I returned the muffins I was carrying, back on the shelf. Putting a neutral expression on my face, I said, Good day to you too, Amy. Turning on my heel, I headed to the exit. I was just outside the door when I felt a death grip on my arm. I rotated my head to see Amy standing beside me holding on. You knew, you pig. You knew, Amy said between clenched teeth. I gave her a shrug with a small smile. We both had our secrets, didn't we? I looked down at her hand on my arm. Now if you will excuse me, I have somewhere to be. Amy's face changed, her tone softening as she dropped her hand from my arm. Can we talk please, Bill? I really need to speak with you. After all our time together, can you do that for me? I glanced at my watch, then pointed across the street at a restaurant with some outdoor tables. Fine, Amy, let's go there. Amy began removing her apron. As we walked and I texted my new location. It was my psychologist who had me figure it out that you knew about my online and extramarital activities, Amy started out. She was so thin I did not think her arm could lift the coffee cup in her hand. You know, Bill, I almost died. I am sorry to hear that, Amy. What happened? You happened, Bill. I developed anorexia nervosa. You know how fixated on my weight I always was. You never questioned my body size and made me feel good about my self-image. But then when you started to make comments about my figure, I became self-conscious, desperate to become thin. When I left you at the hospital that day after the zoo event, things just got worse. Eventually, I had to be hospitalized. I was literally starving myself to death. You are blaming me for that, Amy? Amy put down her coffee cup before speaking. After I saw you with that skinny bitch, well, I just lost it. I started to splurge and purge, eating and vomiting. But no matter how much weight I lost, it was never enough. You know anorexia cannot be cured. With constant therapy, anorexia can be controlled. I have been in therapy for a while, but my counselor says I need closure. Amy looked me in the eye. Why did you do it, Bill? Why did you torment me about my size? I returned her stare. You first, Amy. Why did you screw around on me? I put down my coffee cup. For God's sake, it wasn't something that just happened. You went online and ordered up a bunch of sex buddies. Amy dropped her eyes to the table. I was bored. My jaw dropped. You were bored? Amy did not take her eyes from the table. We were always together, Bill. We had breakfast together, rode to work together, and ate lunch at the same time every day. You were like a part of me. Then suddenly, you were not there anymore. She paused before continuing. I went from you by my side at all times, to maybe seeing you in the hallway at the house. After you started on the night shift and with all the classes, it was like we were distant roommates. I got real lonely. Lonely, Amy? You were so lonely you had to go screw other guys? You knew a wide circle of friends back then. You could not visit with them? Couldn't volunteer someplace? Hell, get a dog to keep you company. Bill, it was not like that. I did hang out with my friends at first, but they are all married. I felt like a third wheel, the odd person out. I did do a few nights out with some of the single ladies at work, but that did not feel right. After a while. They always wanted to hit this bar or that nightclub, see how many drinks they could score off some guy. Not only did it feel so wrong to me, but I was the good wife. I did not want any rumors getting started. Besides, I always was a homebody type of person. That sure changed. I commented dryly. Amy gave a sigh before continuing. I started just staying at home each evening. TV was boring, and there are only so many posts on Facebook you can do. A group of girls at work were talking about that cheating website. At first I was appalled at such a thing, but like knowing about the location of an accident, I had to see it for myself. I entered the site just to check it out. For the first few times I never even logged on, just read some of the posts. It seemed so forbidden. I shook my head. Great, you could not have logged onto a cooking site or exercise blog. Bill, you don't know how I have wished 1,000 times I would have gone to Wikipedia instead. If I could go back in time, I would cancel our internet service and smash my smartphone. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, I said. Amy nodded. The first time I logged on, I got over 30 requests for chats. I felt so empowered, excited. All these people wanted to talk with me. You mean guys wanted to screw you? Amy nodded again. I thought it was harmless. I would never meet these people. While some of the posters were crude, a lot could write really well. Next thing you know, I am in the chat room doing, well, you know. Gee, Amy, it must have been difficult typing with one hand. Now I really wish I had bought that protective cover for the keyboard. You benefited at first, Bill. I attacked you every time you walked in the morning after your night shift. Before you left for work, I tried to wear myself out with you, so I would not be tempted to go back to the computer. There was just never enough time for you and me, though. Amy looked at her fingers. One guy, who wrote really well, keep asking me to meet. I always turned him down, and then I thought, what is the harm in just meeting for a simple date? You had dates all the time with those girls at school. Those were not dates, Amy. They were study sessions with both guys and girls. I know, Bill. It was just something I told myself. I rationalized that there was no difference chatting on the website or chatting at a public place. I felt in control. Nothing was going to happen. But that's not how it turned out, right, Amy? I met a few guys and nothing did happen, although a few did try. I was in a vicious circle. The online chat sessions got me all worked up, but you were not around. If I met the guys in person, I did not do anything, but still got all worked up, yet you still were not around. I was not around, Amy, because I was working my bum off at night and studying my bum off in the daytime, all for a better future for us. What were you doing with your bum? I swear to God nothing was going to happen. Then I let one guy kiss me. He was handsome, a real charmer. He just knew how to push my buttons. It turned into a make-out, heavy petting session in the parking lot. I ended up jerking him off. while he did please me as well. Amy, I hope you washed your hands before you drove home. Amy made a face, but kept talking. After that, I was all freaked out. I stayed away for almost a week. Yet like a moth to the flame, I eventually logged back onto the website. I made a promise to myself I would only stay in the chat rooms. Nevertheless, I found myself meeting up with some of the guys I was chatting with. I shook my head. So while I was killing myself like a sleep-deprived zombie, you were out getting finger-banged. I paused to take a deep breath. What about the other things? Giving B-jobs to guys in the restaurants, getting screwed in the backseat of cars, doing the dirty in ways you never let us experience. Gesturing with my right hand, I almost knocked over the coffee cups. Were the rules different for your sex buddies? Was it like boarding an airline flight at an Italian airport where there are no rules? Amy put her hands together. It sounds so stupid now, but I had set down some guidelines for myself, as if it would make a difference. I never met with the same guy twice. They all had to wear protection. I never brought anyone near our house, or be with anyone we may ever know or meet. It had to be in a public place so I would be safe. Safe but illegal, I commented. You can get lots of STDs, even with a safety. Amy flinched. I guess the good Lord looks out for babies and fools and sometimes wayward wives, because I am clean, she replied. There is another name for wayward wives, Amy. Amy looked me in the eye. Bill, there is nothing you can say to me that is worse than what I have called myself. I thought I was being clever, empowered, and calling all the shots. I decided when, where, with who and what. You'd never know. I vowed as soon as you got finished with school we would be together again, and I could stop. I would never need anyone but you again, ever. They would just be secret memories. Secret memories you could enjoy while laughing at me? I never ever laughed at you, Bill. Sad to say, when you were out of sight, you were out of mind. The memories I did not enjoy, not even back then. They just made me ashamed. Ashamed then, and ashamed now. I thought it was a life I could keep separate. All it did was separate us. Then why the freak out in the hospital with Ileana? That was when it all came crashing down. I saw her with you, and after finding her hairs in our shower, I lost it. How dare you cheat on me? Funny reaction considering what I was doing. Add that with the mind games you were playing with me. So well, the thought of losing you to that skinny one-legged bitch knocked over the first anorexic domino that put me in the hospital, then treatment, then therapy, and where I am today. Divorced, a shitty job, no health benefits, trying not to starve myself, while accepting money from my mother to survive. Amy leaned in toward me. Bill, you never did screw that one-legged girl, did you? It was a statement, not a question. I blew out a big breath before answering. As I told you that day back then, Ileana was not my type. Amy slumped back into her chair. Another screw-up to add to my list. Do you still keep in contact? Oh, I see her around, I said nonchalantly. Your turn now, Bill. When you found out, why not just confront me, scream at me, or just leave me? Why this? Amy said, spreading her arms wide, exposing her bony, almost flat chest. I thought before speaking. Was I a prick for tormenting Amy? Naturally, I do not believe so. I had been devastatingly hurt by her cheating. Amy, the person I had trusted most, had shattered my whole world, making me question not only my manhood, but also if I was capable of a relationship. Any person, or even animal, will lash out when they are in pain. Was I responsible for Amy's anorexia? I'll leave that up to behaviorists who debate if we are responsible for our own actions or slaves to factors in the environment. Amy, your cheating attacked our marriage, our relationship, my self-esteem, and every shred of trust one had. When you ripped my heart out, I felt pain worse than those much chomping on me. I guess I wanted you to feel some of that anguish. Amy spread out the fingers of her right hand. It looked like an X-ray. Well, Bill, you certainly got your pound of flesh. Are you happy now? You got many, many pounds of my flesh. I finished up my cup of coffee. I am sorry for your condition and hope you can overcome your illness. But to answer your question, yes, I am happy now. It has been difficult after your actions, but thinking about it, I am happy now. Just then a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The horn honked twice as the windows rolled down, and two tow-headed boys started shouting out the window, "Daddy! Daddy! Come on, hurry! Mommy said we could get ice cream. I got up from the table, pointing my finger at the bouncing boys in the window. Get back in your car seats, or there will be no ice cream and Mommy will tan your hides. Both boys knew it was a bluff, but squealed as they rolled up the window. I pulled a business card from a gold case off the inside pocket of my suit coat and laid it on the table. You take care now, Amy. I gotta go. I pointed at the SUV before turning back to her. Best of luck to you. I threw a $50 bill on top of the business card before walking away. I kissed my wife in the driver's seat after hugging the boys. As I put on the passenger seat belt, my wife tilted her head to gesture toward Amy, still seated at the cafe. Bill, who is the skeleton? She looks like the archenemy of He-Man, that villain Skeletor, from the Masters of the Universe kids' cartoons. I chuckled. No one can ever accuse you of being politically correct, I said, as she pulled away into traffic. That is my ex-wife, Amy. You know the story. That skinny broad, she said, surprised. Well, she better not have any ideas about coming back for a do-over. I can still see her well enough with the one eye I got left to cap her bum. Jane's blonde hair shook as she turned around to get a look at the fast disappearing Amy in the side view mirror. Not many females can pull off a ponytail after having twins. However, Jane still had that pixie look that made bartenders check her ID. I laughed. Put your gun back in the holster, Jane. The battle is over. You won. Turning to my sons in the back seat, I asked, who wants ice cream? Yes, it was dead-eyed Jane that came to my bed that night after the divorce. She became my roommate, my girlfriend, my best friend, and my wife, just not in that order. Jane claimed she took action before I began thinking about anyone else. I believe my mantra of act like a man of thinking, think like a man of action, allowed me to move forward and establish a relationship with Jane and have the family I always wanted. Ileana, who is now assistant HR manager at the bakery, says I am full of shit, and if Jane had not taken action, I would still be thinking with my head up my bum. But just so you do not think I am a complete but wipe, I did get Amy an interview at the bakery. Despite the way Amy had left before and their history, Ileana hired her. Amy knew the job well, so it was a wise call. She is back to line supervisor, with a nice salary and a benefit package that allows her to continue with therapy. Me? Well, I still believe in acting like a man of thinking and thinking like a man of action. Of course, I could be, as Ileana claims, full of shit. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.